Hi guys, Emma here, and today I'm going to be watching part 16 of Twin Peaks called No Knock, No Doorbell. He seems to have a smile on his face. I don't like this at all. Oh, poor Jerry. Oh, it's the hum from the hotel. It's the same hum.
You are awake. 100%.
Yes. He's giving him the ring? I'm not sure I'd want that.
Need you to make another one.
I want him to make another doggy. That's so weird. Just reaching through dimensions like that.
I'll soon forget your kindness and decency.
This is wonderful. Calm down, calm down.
I'll drive.
What the heck is happening to Diane? She just seems freaked out. Gordon Cole is pretty intuitive.
I'm on.
I can't believe after all those scenes that Audrey and Charlie just turn up like this. She looks really scared, like she's never been out in a million years. What? Oh dear, what is this? Old school baby. What? Whoa, 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 whoa. Oh, okay, just finished the episode. Dear. What a great episode. One of the best, I think, that we've had in the season, possibly the best. Definitely pleased that Agent Cooper is finally back. I don't think I could have gone another episode without him back. And boy, was he back in a big way. He was just back to being the old Agent Cooper, as if nothing had ever happened to him. He was just back in the saddle, back being his FBI agent self, assuming the responsibility of being an active agent. Completely knows what to do in regards to Dougie, asking the one-armed man to make another copy of Dougie. That's what it seemed like to me. He gave him some of his hair, and the seed from Dougie, I guess, is going to create a new Dougie. He's also very tactful with Sonny Jim and Janie E, and the way that he treated them with such care and love showed you what kind of a man that Agent Cooper still is. He hasn't been tainted in any way by his experience in the Black Lodge. He hasn't become bitter. He said that his heart was full after the way that Janie and Sonny had looked after him and been part of his life. And I'm wondering if they were part of that recovery in bringing Agent Cooper back, whether their influence and their proximity to Agent Cooper helped him get back to who he really was, rather than someone who might emerge and feel like they had lost something, they had something to be angry about. But I think that faced with loving Janie and loving Sonny Jim and feeling thankful for what they gave him, I think there was little time or space for negative energy, and perhaps that's not who Coop is anyway. So great just to hear him speak the way he speaks and to do the things he does. I mean, he is an amazing character, an adorable character, and I'm so glad that he came back in this episode and that we didn't just get like 10 minutes in the last episode of Agent Cooper. So Hutch and Chantel met their demise. Very Wild West, I think. Very reminiscent of Tarantino. Yeah, they came across like a Bonnie and Clyde kind of couple, being eliminated that way with so much violence. Okay, let's talk about Diane, because that was pretty freaky. Okay, Diane was getting a text from Evil Coop saying all, and I didn't understand what that meant at first, and then it looked like she had to give him a full list of coordinates, whereas perhaps she had only given him some of the numbers. I guess that Gordon Cole and Albert suspected that Diane was a tulpa all along, because they did comment about Diane feeling different when Gordon hugged her in an earlier episode. He said he felt something was not quite right. Their reaction to Diane being a tulpa and to disappearing like this after they shot her was quite calm and collected, and I liked Tammy's reaction actually. I thought if that's indicative of the way that she responds to situations like this, then she's going to be a great agent. Diane's story was heart-wrenching. I guess that the story that she was telling was the real Diane story. At some point after she was taken to the convenience store, she was made into a tulpa, and the tulpa was returned to Earth, and who knows where Diane is. I think she was saying, I'm at the sheriff's station, or I'm a sheriff's station. I'm not quite sure what she was saying, but if she was saying I'm at the sheriff's station, does she mean her real self, or does she mean a version of herself? Like, could Nado be Diane somehow? I don't know how, but maybe Diane was put in a place where she couldn't see, she was blinded like that. Maybe she was put in a different body. I just don't know what is going on, what Diane meant by that, or what the tulpa meant by that. Could she have been channeling Nado at that point when she was saying about the sheriff's station? Either Diane is dead, Diane is out there, another Diane, the real Diane, or Diane is still trapped in the other dimensions where Evil Coop left her. It was pretty traumatic anyway, that story that Diane told, and I have to say, what a great bit of acting by Laura Dern. I was absolutely compelled by her narrative there. She drew me right into that situation with Diane and Evil Coop. Just bravo, Laura Dern, really. Okay, so going on to Richard, I kind of felt like Evil Coop was setting him up as soon as he gave him this bleeper thing to go and walk to the coordinate section, because he had this evil smile on his face, like he knew that there was something that may harm him, so he sent Richard up there, or he was already anticipating that he wanted to kill Richard, and that's how he was going to get rid of him. Richard became electrocuted I should say, and he appeared to die, but I'm wondering if he is dead, because of the fact that he seemed to disappear for a start, and I don't think that if you're electrocuted that your whole body just is incinerated. I think that's quite a rare thing, unless it has to be a very high temperature, I think, to be able to completely incinerate a human body. And I'm wondering, because of the fact that that electricity that was surrounding Richard, it was very similar to the electricity that when Diane and Dougie were turned into these gold balls in the Red Room with the one-armed man, and he had to shield his eyes from the glare of the electricity flaring up. That reminded me when Richard was seemingly dying of the same thing. So I'm wondering if actually it wasn't dying, but he was being transported to another dimension, or he was being changed. And I want to go on from that and say that because we know that tulpas exist now, because Diane was one and Dougie was one, the possibilities are endless for who is a tulpa. But I know that we have to end somewhere. I mean, everybody can't be a tulpa, but the fact that Evil Coop could have created any tulpa anywhere suggests that there could be more. And I'm wondering if Richard was a tulpa. He seems to say that Richard is his son because he says goodbye son after Richard is seemingly killed. But if he created Richard as a tulpa, then he could regard himself as being that creator figure, the father figure anyway. So that would still make sense that he says goodbye son even if Richard was a tulpa. And the reason I think Richard could have been a tulpa is because there is more to come from Richard. There has to be, because we already know that Good Coop has been informed that he has to do something with Richard and Linda at some point. And I guess that scene with the giant is still going to come back into play at some point, and that means Richard has to come back into play. So that can't be the last we see of Richard. That can't be the end of him. I am going to make a prediction here, so if you don't want to know anything that might turn out to be true, you can turn me off now. But my prediction is that Richard may be created as a tulpa, the same way that Dougie is being recreated now with a part of Agent Cooper's hair, and that good that is put into the new Richard may create a good Richard, as opposed to the Richard that we've seen so far. I hope that makes sense. I've Of course, there's still the question of Linda, and I do have a theory about that as well. Again, if you don't want to know, close your ears now, turn me off. I think that Linda will also be a Tulpa creation, but I think the seed of Linda will be someone that we already know, someone very special, if you get my drift. So I was coming to the end of the episode, and when the music started at the Roadhouse, I thought, this is going to be a pretty long song, but then we had some Audrey action. I was so surprised to see Audrey and Charlie come into the Roadhouse after all those scenes where Audrey said she couldn't go and she seemed to be dissuading Charlie from leaving with her, and then they just waltzed through the door. Audrey seemed very nervous and uncomfortable and like a fish out of water, I guess. She just didn't seem like she had been out for a while. And then this very strange thing happened, a very surreal moment when everybody moved aside and let her come onto the dance floor, and she started to do this very evocative dance. I think Audrey's dance this time around was actually way more iconic and way more mesmerizing than her original dance in the diner. I just couldn't take my eyes off Audrey this time. She was really deep into that scene, Cheryl and Fenn, and I loved it. Then there was a moment of violence and Audrey said to Charlie, get me out of here, and there was a awakening. At least that's what it looked like. It looked like she awakened from that scene at the Roadhouse and was somewhere else looking into a mirror. She seemed to be wearing a white nightgown as if she was in a hospital or in a psychiatric unit. Now, here's what I think. I think Audrey is still in her coma, and the reason I think that is because of an earlier scene in this episode where Janie E says to Sonny Jim and Bushnell that people who fall into comas can be in comas for years, and I think that she was giving us a hint as to Audrey's situation. That dialogue seemed very bare and as if it was trying to connect to the audience, as if that dialogue was there to wake us up and give us a clue as to Audrey's situation. Even though Audrey seemed to be awake in that final moment, I think that she's still asleep. She was at a stage where she is awakening, she's able to see herself in her situation, so she's not in the dreamland of Twin Peaks anymore, she's not in the Roadhouse, she's not in wherever she and Charlie were living, she's awake, she's in this room, hospital room, she's looking in a mirror, she can see herself, but she's not fully out of the coma yet, but it's a step towards waking up. In any case, I thought it was a really disturbing moment because seeing Audrey like that was very upsetting. Knowing that her life has been like this, it's a pretty tragic tale, you know? I'm really looking forward to the next episode. It looks like everyone is on course to meet each other in Twin Peaks. I'm hoping that the Mitchum brothers and Candy and the other two girls meet Wally Brando on the way, because I think that Candy and Wally Brando would make the perfect couple. And I think that, you know, that would be a lovely ending for those two characters to end up together. I'm wondering if that scene where Andy takes Lucy into the sheriff's station area and presents her with something is the moment when Cooper comes back. I think that would be pretty overwhelming for Lucy to see Agent Cooper again after all those years. I love the way that this episode really set up the whole 2-hour finale, and I think that it's going to be a great one. And I think it's going to be a definitive story, as in I can't see there being future episodes of Twin Peaks after this. I think this is it. I think that they could, but everything seems so epic, doesn't it? As if they couldn't top this, almost. They couldn't top this story. This is the story of everything. This is the story of human existence. This is the story of mankind. This is the story of good and evil. And, sorry, I'm getting carried away. I mean, I guess it depends how things turn out in the following 2 episodes. Thank you for watching today. If you have any thoughts about this episode, you can leave them in the comments below if you like. So yeah, that's it. Okay, bye.